Greetings, respected and dear fellow Earthlings. My video today is entitled, Is it necessary and possible for humanity to create a global contractual rule of law authority? If it is said that mankind is an animal that has lost its mind on big issues, probably all the fellow citizens of the Earth would not agree with this judgment. If we pose a question to world leaders and all our fellow Earthlings and see how they answer it, we would have to come to this conclusion. If I were to suggest to all my fellow Earthlings that mankind should create a global contractual rule of law authority as soon as possible, I suspect that at least the majority of my fellow Earthlings would think this is not possible. In fact, in today's human society, which is fully globalized in terms of transportation, communication, information, economy, politics, entertainment, etc., there are at most three possibilities for a possible global order. Either it will be plunged into anarchic, endless conflicts and wars, or it will be under the authoritarian dictatorship of a superpower, or it will be the case that all the people of the earth will reach some kind of social contract to create a global contractual rule of law authority. The history of humankind over the past several thousand years, and especially since the 20th century, has shown that no state can conquer the globe by force in order to establish a global dictatorship. The only option for humanity to survive sustainably or to make life better for all is to create a global contractual rule of law authority. Such a simple truth. It's amazing that not a single one of the 8 billion Earthlings has been thinking about it. A thing that must be done after rational thought. Why have none of the world's leaders done it? Worse yet, even if someone had thought this through and brought it up now, how many people would be willing to support it? At this point, who else can say that mankind is not a species that has lost its mind on big issues? In order to write about human problems, I have invented a maximum love criticism method. The main point of this method is that, in order to identify and solve problems, I criticize people and things that have problems without mercy, not to vent my unhealthy emotions, not to use offensive and abusive language, but with the greatest love, hoping that the world will become a better place and suggesting solutions to the problems. This video criticizes human beings who have lost their senses in big questions because the results of my thinking and research show that human society should and may become better. Everything in this world is imperfect and people make mistakes. As long as we do not make the same mistakes in the future, or if we know our mistakes and correct them, we may be able to avoid huge man-made disasters as much as possible in the future, and we will be able to make the world a better place. For these purposes, I ask the question of this video and give my following answer to that question. First, it is probably neither possible nor necessary for mankind to create a world government that governs everything. But if humankind wishes to survive sustainably and to make the world a better place, it needs, at the very least, a global contractual rule of law authority. The greatest, or perhaps the only function of the global contractual rule of law authority is to implement the winning scheme of the global competition on conflict or social problem resolution. In order for all or most of the people of the planet to support the creation of a global contractual rule of law authority, it is very important to reach a majority consensus through a competition on the following basic questions. What does the global contractual rule of law authority mean? Why must human beings have the global contractual rule of law authority? The possibility for humanity to establish a global contractual rule of law authority? Basic methods for establishing the global contractual rule of law authority? What should and could ordinary people do about it? Secondly, the basic meaning of the global contractual rule of law authority. Establishing a global contractual rule of law authority is very similar to developing traffic rules and enforcement systems for public transportation in a city. While a global contractual rule of law authority is much more complex and difficult than developing public transportation rules and enforcement systems, the fundamentals should be the same. Probably at least the following 4 things should be agreed by reasonable competition. 1. What set of statements is needed for the global contractual rule of law authority, including what needs to be done, plus how, plus why? 2. What kind of organizational structure is needed? How to divide power and check each other? 3. What set of military forces is needed? How can the nations of the world be held accountable? 4. What commitments should all or the vast majority of people keep, including what are the penalties for non-compliance? Thirdly, why is it necessary for humankind to create a global contractual rule of law authority? According to the existing theories of the state of nature, the social contract, and separation of powers and checks and balances of humankind, as long as any society does not create the contractual's rule of law authority by means of a social contract, it will either be plunged into endless conflict and war or be under authoritarian dictatorship. The reality facing humankind at present is that global dictatorship is impossible, and that, if the status quo continues to develop, humankind may at any time suffer a great man-made disaster or even common destruction, and our only option is to create the global contractual rule of law authority. In this video, are there conflicts in human society where we must fight to the death? I tell a story about the monkeys and the bananas. When some people saw that the monkeys in this story didn't pick the bananas hanging in the cage, they said that monkeys can't be that stupid. The truth is that not only would monkeys be that stupid, but many earthlings are currently that stupid. The world's current nearly 8 billion earthlings are so stupid to behave is 1. A moment's reflection leads to the conclusion that the only option for humankind to survive sustainably or to make life better for all is to create a global contractual rule of law authority. But so far, out of 8 billion earthlings, not a single one has asked such a question. Is it necessary and possible for humankind to create a global contractual rule of law authority? 3. That is even sillier or even sadder, is that even though the issue has now been raised, the vast majority of people probably still don't give a damn or pretend they don't see it. If the present state of affairs continues, mankind will be a strange animal indeed. They are sometimes very sensible, e.g. in the area of recognizing nature and utilizing its laws, sometimes very irrationally, e.g. in the area of recognizing and reforming society, and often lost in big issues, e.g. on the man-made fatal problems. Once we lose our minds on the big issues, humans are almost as stupid as the monkeys in the story of the monkeys and the bananas. Dear fellow earthlings, I say this. Do you hate me and cyber violence me, or should we go beyond the monkeys together? Fourth, there is a great potential for human beings to establish the global contractual rule of law authority for the same 3 reasons that make it possible for human beings to build a reasonable society. For those interested in this question, see the previous video. Is it necessary and possible for humanity to come out of barbarism and build a reasonable society? One of the points this video hopes to add is this. It has been said that decades ago the US President Wilson once tried to use collective security to replace the balance of power among major powers and to use collective institutions to maintain world peace. Not only did he not have the support of Congress, he did not have the support of the American people. Now it is just the same old story, and it will not work. Our view is that just because it didn't work in the past doesn't mean it won't work today. In addition, what we think now is fundamentally different from what Wilson thought decades ago. Hold a global competition on the issue raised in this video, and if a winning solution eventually emerges, try it hard. This is the wisdom of doing our best on the man-made deadly problems. The majority of humanity should have this wisdom. What are you going to do, dear fellow earthlings? Those wishing to join us in advancing the creation of a global contractual rule of law authority are invited to email thanksinghegmail.com. The next video is, why do all fellow Earthlings need to know these 7 laws? Well, that's it for today's video. Thank you.